How do you work out what your refurbishment is going to cost on that next project? Before you put your offer in, you need to be sure you've got a good understanding of what that refurbishment is going to cost you. Now, what you need to do first and foremost to get an idea of refurbishment cost is figure out from your competition in the area, from other developers, from other refurbished projects. If you're looking to sell yours on, you need to know from them the kind of standard that you need to achieve in order to be successful. So what I mean by that is, if you're doing properties that are going to sell for 100k once they're renovated, it's a very different proposition to the standard of refurb than if you are selling one for £1 million. Everything will be entirely different in terms of the standard of refurbishment. The kitchen you put in, the bathroom you put in, the tiles, the flooring, the carpets, everything is going to be of a different spec. So buyers will expect a much higher standard when you're selling a property for £1 million than £100,000. And you need to be sure, if you're in the business of flipping property, that you don't overspend, and conversely that you don't underspend. So overspending, of course, eats into your profit margins. There is a certain level of a ceiling price that you can achieve in a property in a certain area. So regardless of what you do, it's typically never going to exceed that ceiling price. So if you're putting granite worktops in a kitchen of a property that you're selling for 100k, you're probably going to just be throwing money away. Yes, it will look beautiful. Yes, you'll get loads of viewings. You'll sell it no problem at all in terms of the appearance, but you won't get any more than if you'd have put a bog standard kitchen in most cases. And even if you do, it's got to value up from a surveyor that comes around and does a valuation on the property for the buyer when you come to sell it. So just because you put a nice kitchen in doesn't necessarily mean you're guaranteeing that that uplift in value is going to be justifiable to exceed the ceiling prices in the area. Probably not, especially when valuers are going to be cautious, right? So you've got to be aware that there's a certain standard of refurb that fits the area, that fits the type of property that you are refurbishing to buy and sell on. So overspending is a big mistake, but also underspending is a horrendous mistake, because if you are doing a property up to sell it and you've put a kitchen that's just nowhere near nice enough for the quality of the property that you are selling, so it doesn't fit that property in that area because everybody else has a much higher standard, then you're going to struggle in most cases to sell that property. So you underspent, you cut corners in the wrong areas, and that's going to come back to hurt you in some cases. So it's really crucial that you get the balance right here, and that you do a refurb that's fitting to that property. How do you know all this stuff? This is about doing your research. So before you flip any property, you'd have looked at comparables. So before you even place your offer, what properties are selling for in the area? And when you're looking at those comparable sold prices, the great thing about using Rightmove is they actually show you pictures in most cases of what a property was like in terms of condition when it achieved the figure that you've based your comparables on. So if it's sold for 300k, you can look at the photos and say, well, at that figure, it was renovated to this particular standard. And therefore, if I'm working off my figures to achieve that same figure, I need to make sure I've got a similar or better standard to do it. So you're actually looking in advance at properties to get a feel for the kind of quality that they were refurbished for. You're also going to be speaking to local estate agents and asking them about the quality of refurbishment, what kind of things people are looking for, what colour schemes do they like, and down to the very specifics of the kitchen, the bathroom, the flooring, the things that do well in that area. Become an expert in refurbishments. Once you've got that information, you can then figure out the kind of spec, the kind of specification that you need to bring your property to so that it is going to stand out from the competition. It's going to be a nice refurbishment, but you're also not going to massively overspend at the same time, so you can keep your profit margins as high as possible. And you'll know that in advance. So you take that specification, and then when you meet with your contractors to get quotes for the various jobs that need doing in your property refurbishment, you've got a spec in mind. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can project manage, and you can bring in every contractor individually. You bring in your electrician, you bring in your window fitter, your plasterer, your joiners, etc. Or you will pay a builder to do that for you. So the builder will come in and give you a quotation for everything, and ultimately then you can just get a fixed price. You know where you stand if you give them that specification. Now, in most cases, it's easier to do the latter, which is why most people tend to do that. And you can, not all factors being the same, but in some cases you can save money by project managing yourself. And that's why I often do that, and I've done that over the years. But again, don't let that be a stumbling block for you, because it's definitely more work, and it's something that if you are doing property flipping around a full-time job becomes very difficult to do if you're project managing as well. It is possible, but just bear in mind it's a little bit harder. But whichever route you decide to take, whether it's project managing or paying someone to ultimately just a builder to do that work for you, you'll need to understand the cost of things in advance. But at least when you have a specification and you're clear on the spec that you need to achieve, they can go away and give you an accurate price. Because what you don't want to be doing halfway through a refurb is going, oh, hang on a minute, I thought I wanted to do this with the kitchen, and I wanted to put these type of lights in the kitchen, and you've forgotten to tell the electrician, and all of a sudden your costs start to mount up, or you've realized that the quality of the kitchen isn't quite what you hoped, and then you have to change it halfway through. That's the last thing you want to do. And be really clear up front what you are paying for, and specifically the style, the quality of everything that you put into a property. So with that, you're going to get a specification, you're going to get at least 3 quotations for the jobs that need doing in that property, bare minimum, because you'll find differences in price and you'll find differences in quality. So when you're doing that, you're getting an absolute minimum 3 quotations, and you're also going to be asking for examples of their work. So you can look at the quality. You'll be looking at reviews if they're online, likes of Checker Trade or wherever these contractors might be. You'll be looking at their reviews and seeing what other customers think of the quality of their work. That's very important before you hire anyone. But knowing the costs comes from a clear specification, which comes from doing your research, speaking to agents, looking at comparable properties sold, finishing the property to the right standard that fits the area and fits the type of property that you are refurbishing. So hopefully you found this video useful. If so, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and you'll see me again soon.